Hello, winners, and welcome to Two for the Win with your hosts, Nick and Will. It tis be the season. There are certain destinations where there's cycles of time that are good to book. Obviously, we've talked in the past about river cruising, especially the Christmas market cruises and things like that. Usually good to book at a certain time. Well, Wanderluster winners, we are approaching another popular time to start booking for a particular destination. What destination? Stay tuned to find out. But before we unveil that, please be sure you subscribe, share, and follow Two for the Win on your favorite platform. And thanks again to Nick Menard and Associates with Dream Vacations for sponsoring today's episode. Happy Wanderlust Wednesday, Nick Menard.
Hello, winners.
What is up? So, why don't you have the honors of unveiling what destination do you typically start getting a lot of booking requests for that you're right in the midst? And actually, I think you've already done a few already in the past few weeks. You have the honors to unveil it to our winners.
Alaska.
So,
Alaska, Q4, it's usually the time that people book for their Alaska experience. I already have one for 2027, believe me or not. So people are taking ownership of their choice for stateroom, and they said, I want that specific stateroom, so I'm going to book 2 years in advance. Well, it's possible, but seriously, Q4 it's the time that we have the most booking for Canada, for Alaska. Why? Because starting January, February, it's going to be very hard to get cabins for the sailing you really want, or you will get the last few cabins, which is never something recommended. So definitely now is the time to book Alaska. So we wanted to talk a little bit more about what exactly in Alaska and what we will recommend about Alaska, because you have a lot and everything in between about, every cruise line now go to Alaska pretty much, but you need to be very, careful about what you choose, because there will be a huge difference of experience choosing one compared to another. And we're going to explain why.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing for our winners to consider is actually coming up next week, as many know, is Thanksgiving. And one of the more famous shopping events is Black Friday. A lot of specials come out from the travel vendors. And certainly if whatever destination piques your interest, certainly a great way to have a great experience, but pay less for it with some of these Black Friday deals. And that includes Alaska. So why don't you walk our winners through like some of the things that you mentioned earlier about things to consider, what to look for and what to look out for when considering Alaska?
Yeah, and I'd love to. So most people, when they've never been, which is usually the case, most people go once to Alaska, even though I have clients who are returning Alaskan, like I call them, but it's literally they go one time. They want to experience Alaska one time. And majority comes and said, Nick, I saw online an opportunity to go to Alaska from Seattle. It's something I hear every other time that someone asks me about Alaska. I've never been. Yes, the answer is yes. You have sailing out of Seattle. But why would you do that? The reason is every sailing out of Seattle, majority, I would say, sailing out of Seattle are 7 nights. All right. You will lose 2 nights on the water, back and forth, a total of 2 nights in the water just to get there. Which means, don't forget, it's a loop. So when you go, you need to come back. So they will need to stop in the middle of Alaska to be able to, so you can see some glacier, you can see some experience, you can tell that, you can say, people, you've been to Alaska, but you never experience real Alaska. Alaska, the most beautiful part is in the north part. It's Anchorage part. It's where you have the most beautiful scenery. And when you have also the opportunity to do a tour, which something I'm going to touch down as well. You cannot do that by doing Seattle, you pass Vancouver, a little bit more, and then you come back. All right? So I would not recommend doing that. The main sailing, the best sailing for Alaska, cruise line, sorry. You have number one, and there is no discussion. And I rarely talk about them because that's literally the only destination I would I would. And we just came back from a Princess Star, which is the brand new ship. More to come in the coming weeks. We're going to talk about it. And it was amazing, gorgeous. Everything was fantastic. But I still see Princess as the number one Alaskan cruise line in the world. All right. I think they won 18 years in a row, actually, the best cruise line for Alaska. And it's for a reason. Their ships are made for Alaska. They are the most knowledgeable about Alaska. Talking about cruise tours, so the ability to do a cruise, but also 3 to 5 days on land, which I highly, highly, highly recommend, because then you see the real Alaska. They are the only cruise line who own lodges in Alaska. That's Princess.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the only one who do the land portion, but they are the only one who own their lodges.
Mm-hmm.
All the other one, they go to Holiday Inn and all those places in Alaska. So you don't have the real Alaskan experience. You only have it with Princess. The number 2, I would say, I like Celebrity. All right. And then the number 3, it's more for a older crowd. It's Holland America. They're also very good for Alaska. All right. It does not mean that you cannot have a great experience sailing any other cruise line. All right. I want to make sure. But if you want the real Alaskan experience, I would choose Princess by far. All right. So that's very important to share. Do not leave out of Seattle. Do not leave out of San Francisco. Those two are very popular. American loves to go there, sail from there, and come back. Do not do it. I know some people have issue with passport, and they said, well, if we go to the 7-night real Alaskan cruise, you need to leave out of Vancouver to go to Anchorage, or you need to leave out of Anchorage to go to Vancouver. It's going north or going south. And that's exactly 7 nights. That's why when you come from Seattle or San Francisco, you have to go to the middle and come back. You never reach Anchorage. Some people have issue with passport, like I said, and so they want a birth certificate only, or they want to take their driver license because that's Alaska is U.S. And if you go to the 7 nights, Vancouver, Anchorage, you need to have a passport with you because you're going to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So this is literally in big line what I would always recommend. Avoiding those two, start at Vancouver, start in Anchorage. And if you can choose, if you tell me what would be the best option, I would always say go sail north. So sail from Vancouver to Anchorage. Vancouver to Anchorage will be the best option. Why? Because you go from the least to the best.
Mm-hmm.
It's always better to do that. And if you do a tour, you can do the tour from both sides. But I love the tour from Anchorage, Whitaker. If you do that, you will have the best experience with the train, the famous train that everybody talk about. They want to use the train. I got someone again last week saying, like, Nick, I just want to experience the train. What it means is that the train from Whitaker next to Anchorage and going into the wilderness of Alaska, like I call it. And it's like in a train, like with all glass. Like it's like the movie, like going into the mountain, like the magnificent views. That's the magic train. It's included in the price. And then you arrive in for 3 to 5 nights. I encourage 4 nights. It's perfect. 3 nights, it's great as well, but it's going to be rushy because you do so much during those 3 days that it's going to be nonstop busy. But it's an amazing time. 4 days give you a little bit more relaxed, more pace.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely what I would recommend personally, but we can go more in detail about those.
Yeah, no, I mean, you already painted a really good picture, and that train does sound like super cool to be able to go through that. So let's maybe go a little bit deeper. So maybe you can walk a little bit more detail. So let's take that Vancouver to Anchorage. So they start in Vancouver, and then what? They're sailing for how many, a day or two to get
7.
to Anchorage? Oh, 7
No. It's 7 nights. Yeah.
7 nights. So maybe walk through a little bit of the details on that if you don't mind. Just
No, happy to.
Yeah.
So when you leave from Vancouver, the first day it's always at sea.
Mm-hmm.
All right, to get to Alaska. So when you get to Alaska, you always start when you leave from Vancouver. You stop at Ketchikan. Ketchikan is well known in Alaska. It's called as the first city of Alaska for people coming from the south. It's the first major community travelers. for their journey to the north, like we call it. Okay,
When
so
you
it's
first said that, I almost said Gesundheit. I thought you were sneezing, but what was that? Kuchikan?
I get you, get you. Uh, and it means eagle with spread out wings. I
Oh,
know
well, there
that.
you go. All
And
right.
so that's the name of the town. It's an island. It's located on an island, but it's a fishing camp, and it's a really nice place. Again, when you do excursion there, you have the very picturesque kind of houses. When you have, it's like Europe, when you have green house and blue house next to it
Oh,
is a red
okay.
house.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing you see in Ketchikan. So that's the first stop. And people usually have the first feel. That's something you can do leaving from Seattle and San Francisco. All right.
Mhm.
Then you go to Juneau in Alaska, which is probably the most popular stop. And that's the last stop you do when you do from Seattle and San Francisco. All right. So
Yeah.
this is where you have all the green behind the little fisher village. That's there. So this is literally, it's called the golds of Alaska. So this is really like something very specific when you can climb mountain during excursions. So that's something that you can do for excursion purposes. Or of course, something very famous is to take an helicopter and then you go to a glacier from there and then you come back on the ship. But they're very famous, like I said, for gold and for the government because that's where everything is there for Alaska. So that's definitely something amazing. And they have breathtaking, beautiful glacier also there, beautiful views of mountain. So you have one side glacier on the water, and on the other side you have the mountain and the green of the trees and stuff. So also very important to know, you go to Alaska between mid-May and mid-September. Right.
Mhm.
So that's why it's a very narrow time to visit Alaska. And so people say, what's the best? I don't know. I had people loving it June. I like June, July. Me myself, for personally, but people also like the end in September. It's
Mhm.
really depending, but you cannot go wrong either way.
Mhm.
So that's Juneau, Alaska. Then the next stop is Skagway, Alaska. All right. So this is also a gold field. You will hear a lot of gold thing about Alaska because it's literally, what they're known for. You can
Yeah.
see very old train there. When you're there on the porch, you have like a train station. So you see old, like wood train around. I would definitely not take that one, but you have, you have that. It's literally a place when you go from there to go middle of Alaska. So it's a place that a lot of people used to stop back in the day, taking the train from there to go in the middle of Alaska. So that's definitely something was very popular for miners and things of that nature. So I like to go just for a walk there. Like don't need to do something specific. Just go off and then you just go for a walk. You see the history and the things like that. So that's the stop out in Skagway.
Mhm.
Day 6, you go in national park. So that's the national park, on the side of Alaska. Glacier Bay, I think, is the name. And that's a scenic cruising day. So that day you arrive, like you will go between iceberg, so that's a very, very typical. And it's amazing to know that the 2 stop prior, you have like the old gold town,
Yeah.
like a lot of green, and then you get to the Glacier Bay, like national park, and then you have, it's all white, it's all glacier, like mountain, everything is under snow. So it's very interesting that it's so very different. You have also a lot of wildlife, including humpback whales for people who
Mhm.
like those nature, like those things like that. Otters. You have seabirds, bunch of birds there, mountain goats. I mean, literally, you have bald eagles. I mean, you have all those animals that you can see day 6 at the end of your trip. Something you cannot do if you go from Seattle and from San Francisco.
Mhm.
And finally, at the end, you go to College Fjord, which is the last stop in Alaska. Just before Anchorage, actually. But
Mhm.
this is another stop, which is very similar as the Glacier Bay as well. So it's very white. Everything is like under snow because the higher you go, the north you go, more is snow and cold.
Mm-hmm.
So again, humpback whales are very popular who more north you go in Alaska. So that's definitely something that I would highly recommend is to just take your Googles or your long view and check, because you will probably see some over there. So that's why you cannot go in Alaska. I don't take a balcony. Like, I know people tell me I don't need a balcony, it's too cold. Well, just buy something warm and just have the view that you will have from the ship. It's mandatory for me. Like, I never even
Yeah.
suggest an interior room unless someone said that's all I want. But I would never suggest that. And then finally, the day after, you arrive in Anchorage, which is major city, of course. And then you go from there to Whittier, which is 60 miles approximately from Anchorage. And that's where you go. You take that that amazing train to go into the wilderness. So that's what they usually call, the wilderness of Alaska. But that's the real Alaska. It's not just from the ship what you see. It's actually going inside Alaska. And so that's the end of your cruise trip. But that's where everything else starts. So I mentioned I want to talk about 3 main days now, because those are the most famous, even though it's a little bit rushy for me. But those would be good enough for majority of clients. So when you leave Anchorage, you take the train to Mount McKinley, all right? And over there, you have Princess as their own lodge. So they actually call it the Wilderness Lodge, I think. And so this is highly recommended. You step off the ship, you take the Wilderness Rail service, like to Mount McKinley, and then you get to the lodge for a 1-night retreat. So again, when we provide the pricing for everything, it's included. All right. So you have that included as well. And so Denali is something that's very popular that you can hear. The Denali tour, it's something that's very popular with Princess, but that's literally when you have the best view from the train and from the wilderness, from the lodge, you have that view from Denali. That's an unlimited view that you have from there. And that's the beauty of North Alaska. And so that's something that I always said, you cannot go on a cruise and miss the real Alaska. Yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but it's not crazy more expensive than to do just the cruise. And if you'd spend 7 days, spend 10, and you will have the full experience. You don't have to go back ever, because you will see everything that you need. Of course, if you are like crazy about Alaska, you can always go back as much as you want. But if you do it one time, you will have the full experience.
Unless somebody wants to be Captain Ahab and go after the humpback whales like Moby Dick multiple times. But yeah.
I know. So after staying at Mount McKinley, you take a motor coach, but it's very, very, it's not a bus like a school bus. It's like comfortable. You take a scenic motor coach ride to the Denali Princess Lodge. So as I mentioned, you start with the Wilderness Lodge in McKinney, and then you go to the Denali Princess Lodge. All right. So you go there and you visit the Denali National Park, which is one of the most famous national park you can find in the United States. So you take the natural historic tour into Denali National Park. You watch they call it the Denali Big Five, which is moose, bears, caribou, Dall sheep, and wolves. So you literally, the goal is for you to see all 5. I had a lot of clients who tell me they saw at least 3 of the 5 each time. So that's pretty cool. And of course, the guide always go to place that there's more chance to see them and to see. The moose is really what I love the most, because it's something very similar, and I always think about the movie Why Him? Anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's a famous scene. Originally I was thinking about the ice cream flavor moose tracks, but I like your Why Him scene. That's better reference. For those who haven't seen the movie, just be prepared.
Exactly. And almost done talking. So after that day, this is a magnificent day, magnificent day. The national park in Denali. The last day, you go to Fairbanks. So Fairbanks is the end of the trip. You will have a motor coach to the Fairbanks. You take a cruise, like a little cruise down the Chena River, that's called, and you experience the gold rush history. So
Oh,
you have the native culture, colorful Alaska lifestyle. From there, you can also, if you're lucky, if it's really snowy, like if you have a lot of snow, you can even add client last year who did dock sliding over there. So
okay.
you can have dock sliding. I mean, it's things that you can only do there, pretty much. You have all the native artisans that are there as well. So it's a day when you can literally experience what the way that Alaskan actually live day by day. So so this is the end, and then from there they just pick you up at the end, and then they just drive. You sleep there, and then the day 11. So after the 10 nights, they drive you to the airport at the time that your flight is, and then you
In
just leave and
Fairbanks?
you play Fairbanks. Yeah.
Yeah, Fairbanks. Okay. All right, got it. Mhm.
So basically, it's unreal experience in Alaska. It's 10 days you will never forget. I mean, I think that I never had. No, I don't think I know. I never had a client or myself like coming back and not being mind blown by the scenery, by the local, the people there, and then the difference between the green and the mountain, the
Yeah.
iceberg, the glaciers. Like it's all like very very typical. I think that everybody should experience Alaska in one time in your life.
No, that you painted a great picture. So well done, my friend, walking everyone through that. That was fantastic. I wonder if for those who are watching on YouTube, when you were talking about the gold miner, if they had your face imposed on a miner and stuff like that, that would be interesting to see. Or maybe have you doing dog sledding, whoosh, whoosh, you do.
Lord.
No, but I mean, I think for some people they think. Well, I can't speak for some people. I'll go back, say 10 years ago. Somebody would approach me about Alaska. I'm thinking it's cold. Okay, I get to see whales,
Mm-mm.
get to see wildlife. Okay, great. But when you paint the picture like you did, it makes it far more compelling because you have so many different, diverse kind of experiences within that 10 or 11 day. And, I think a lot of people know this, but I mean, Alaska is massive. Texas is in Alaska, I think. I mean, that's how big. And Mount McKinley is the biggest, tallest mountain, I believe, in North America. It's taller than Pikes Peak in Colorado. So, um, no, painted a great picture. And candidly, one of the things I'm always looking for at Costco is wild caught Alaskan sockeye salmon. I mean, you can't get more fresh than being at the source, right? And getting it there.
So so that's a good segue actually, because people ask me sometimes, a lot of times, what kind of excursion can you do during the tour? All right. So if you do a 3-day tours, you don't have a lot of time to do any kind of additional excursion because they have like literally a packed schedule. If you do 4 or definitely 5, you will have a lot of free time because you literally stay a little bit longer in each part. So you do what everybody does in 3 days, but the rest you free.
Hmm.
Something amazing. For people who like fishing, for example, like you mentioned salmon, they
Hmm.
bring you on day 2, on the land, they bring you to a place where you literally see the salmon like jumping like you see on movies. You catch them and then they bring it back and they cook it for you at night.
Ooh,
Yeah.
my stomach's starting to rumble already.
I know, but can you imagine the experience if someone is really passionate by that or love fish? They go for a salmon fishing experience. So they help you catch them, of course, and everything. Then they put that in a freeze box thing, frigo box, and then they go back. They give it to the chef, and it's like a barbecue outside. So everybody are well dressed, of course. You have a fire, and
Yeah,
they cook the fish that has been caught that day.
that's awesome. That sounds fantastic, actually. That'd be a lot of fun. I'm not a great fisherman, but I would certainly do my best. It sounds like they're overflowing with salmon, so even a blind squirrel catches a nut once in a while. I think I'd be all right. I could catch it.
I'm not a
So.
good fisherman either, but I'm a great eater.
Yeah, you and me both, my friend. Awesome. What else? Anything else to point out about Alaska? You named the top 3 cruise lines. You mentioned the benefits of the 3-day versus the 5-day excursion, and highly recommend doing the land excursion, not just the cruise. Any other tips you want to share with our winners about Alaska?
Again, I don't want to be negative about the other cruise lines because I know we have a lot of fan as a listener. So I'm not saying the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line are not good for Alaska, but again, you will never have the full experience. The anything past day 3 that I mentioned in Alaska, you will not have.
Mm-hmm.
So why going to miss the most beautiful part of Alaska just to say you see it? I don't know. I think that's not the right thing to do. But a majority of cruise line like Royal, like Norwegian, like even Carnival and all those, they do go. No, this year, I mean next year for the next season of Alaska, Virgin Voyages starts sailing there. So I'm very, very curious to see how their experience will be. Again, they don't have, I think, the level of Princess because they never sailed there, so they don't have the experience, and they don't own any of those lodges. So you will stay, if you do the tour with them, you will stay in hotels. Like most are DoubleTree, like Quality Inn and things like that, because that you don't have a million hotel over there. So it's not going to be the same experience, but Virgin, usually when they come up with something, or they really do a great job. So that's something that I reserve the right to change my mind about it, but they never did it. So they will start in May next year. So I'm very, very curious to see the kind of experience they have. I may go myself, but I'm sure I will have client feedback next season. So I'm really excited about this, and we'll see. Now you have other cruise line that I know we mentioned already, Windstar. They leave from Alaska to go to Tokyo, and that's something that I want to do, but they're not Alaska's, like specialist. But they do have a cruise from Alaska to Tokyo. So of course you stay west on the Pacific to go to Asia. So it's like 9 to 10 days. So it's not that far. You're looking at it, it's like going from New York to London or to Southampton. So, but you have options. But if you want the real experience, this is what I would recommend.
There you go. And you're thinking about some holiday gift ideas. Here we are approaching Black Friday. Check out Nick Menard in Dream Vacations. There could just be that special Alaskan experience waiting for you at a lower price than what you normally pay. If you can get the same thing for less, why not do it? So something to check out, but also just to kind of in more serious, but emphasize the point, Alaska books up quickly because it is that shorter window when you can go there. And that's why I think you mentioned, like, all of a sudden you're getting another flood of Alaskan bookings coming in. So just anything quick to wrap up about the importance of, if they want to experience Alaska in 2026, realistically, when do they have to probably make that booking, especially for someone like Princess?
Before the end of the year. I already have a few Princess booked for next season, for next Alaskan season, and some were already sold out for balconies. So that's definitely you don't have to be picky about dates, or if you are, contact us very fast because it's not gonna last. Something I wanted to add, because I had this experience with 3 cabins that I booked for Alaska for June. So we all know that, maybe not, but now you will. World Cup next year is in United States, Canada, Mexico, the soccer World Cup. Prices for hotels in Vancouver for the period between mid-June to mid-July were insane. I'm talking $2,500 to $3,500 a night.
Ooh.
So I had the client booking three 10 days, 3 cabins with a cruise tour, but it was end of June, and they needed a night's pre, because of course when you travel from Florida, you need to have at least one night. So if you want to choose between the June 15 to July 15, there is literally no. With Princess, they have agreement with 4 or 5 hotels in Vancouver. Only one hotel has some little availabilities, and it was $3,200 a night.
Woo! Well,
and then in a 3 cabin.
There's a tip.
So do not try to avoid June 15 to July 15, because for that reason alone, it's going to be packed also in Vancouver, because they play in Vancouver. So this is something to think about. If you want to travel United States, Mexico, or Canada between June 15 and July 15 next year, be ready to pay high price for hotels because of the World Cup.
Now there's a tip. So there you have it, Wanderlust winners, right from the horse's mouth. A great tip from our very own Nick Menard with Dream Vacations. Thanks again for sponsoring today's episode. That'll wrap up. Hopefully that whets your appetite like it did mine about hearing about Alaska. Again, make sure you subscribe, share, and follow Two for the Win on your favorite platform. And that'll wrap us up for this Wanderlust Wednesday. Take care, winners.
Bye, winners.